This is Randy.
And this is Melanie.
And today we're going to talk about Community Season 6, Episode 6, titled Basic Email Security. The basic rundown of this episode is that Greendale has scheduled a controversial comic to perform named Gupta Gupti Gupta or something ridiculous. Sounds like something Dan Harmon would come up with, though. So then the Greendale internet or infrastructure, I guess, is hacked, and they start leaking information. First, the lunch ladies' emails, and then they threaten if they don't cancel this comic's performance that they're going to leak more emails. And, you know, it's, without too big a spoiler, safe to say that the Save Greendale Committee, which is just pretty much the activities committee at this point.
Mm-hmm. I think they even, they say something about the activities committee, and they're like, who's that? And they're like, oh.
Oh, that's us. Yeah. All their emails get leaked. What did you think of this episode, Melanie?
I liked it better than the last couple episodes before it, but I think a lot of the reason that I liked it is because it got kind of meta and did a lot of callbacks to older episodes that were great.
I don't think there weren't a whole lot of laughs in this one. Mm-hmm. But I did enjoy it. It still feels weird. This whole season still feels weird. Of course, it's going to be a bit different. But I did enjoy it because I like the characters, and I like when the characters are given room to breathe and, in this case, bicker and yell at each other.
Yeah.
I enjoy that quite a bit.
And I enjoy it when the characters are true to the character instead of whatever weird stuff they like to do with them. Like, Britta, for example, was a big driving force in this episode. Mm-hmm. She didn't like the person that the hackers were trying to boycott, and she planned on boycotting herself, but she had to protect freedom of speech so much that she
had to kind of flip around on what she initially planned to do anyway.
That's something that Britta would do.
So the episodes are still broken to as if there were commercials. They still go to commercial break, except there's never actually a commercial there, but they still use that structure, which is interesting, and I think it's kind of a way of keeping a 3-act structure into the show and keeping the show feeling as much like Community before as possible. Mm-hmm. The only reason I mention all that is this episode, my favorite part would be the second act, because it is all one really surprisingly long scene that goes on way longer than I expected, of just them, the group, dealing with the fact that their emails got leaked and they all read each other's emails, except for Abed.
Which makes sense also. That's where a lot of the self-referential stuff came from, them referring to things that had happened in previous episodes. Like the Annie's pen being the golden age.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite bits, and it's just because it is the show being meta. Mm-hmm. But Abed mentions that this is like the third part of a trilogy that started with Annie's pen and so on and so forth, but he's like in what I call the golden age. That was a lot of fun.
The very best part, I think, of this whole episode was Chang. They said something about back when Britta and Jeff used to date, and they were like, they dated? And they were like, yeah, and Chang was a teacher, and they were like, the two new cast members. What? And I thought that was fantastic. But Chang's response, which was, yeah, and I haven't been utilized properly since. Freaking perfect.
Yeah, at least they know, because that's a gripe we've had about the show for a long time. Mm-hmm. Chang was great when he was a teacher. He was weird. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they just,
went way weird.
Yeah. There's some good lines. Mm-hmm. There's some good lines, I think, when Chang storms in during that middle section when they're all arguing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I read it all. I read all your crap. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And I suppose the reading of the emails got to give a little bit of outside of Greendale character development to Frankie and
Potashnik.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, with Frankie's character, that's when they made it kind of real. Mm-hmm. And at one point, they're like, because she had this big blow up where obviously they had crossed a line. Mm-hmm. And I think Britta or somebody's like, safe to say that's probably rock bottom right there.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Frankie, her email leaks, or the things they discussed with her email leaks, were all kind of sad and boring. And I mean, that's the kind of character she is, but That just
It's true. They didn't have like necessary. Well, I mean, they mentioned that she, they read the things that she wrote about them, but they didn't really get into anything specific. A lot of it was really offensive to her, the fact that they read these things,
Yeah.
and the things that she read of theirs.
but Potashniks was kind of great.
Yeah, Potashniks was fun.
So I think it worked, not just because it went meta and self-referential. I also think it works well when they do a show with the group instead of splitting it up. And I know that they have reasons to do that so you don't get bored. But I like it when they have them all together and it's all a big hoopla. I don't know.
Hoopla, yeah. Well, no, you have a point there. And, well, they mentioned, I suppose like a bottle episode, like Annie's Pen episode and all that. But beyond that, I would agree, because a lot of the episodes, they do seem to split the characters up, and they'll have a little bit of a story following these couple of characters and these characters. That's not uncommon for the show, but I really do think it oftentimes works best when you've got the group together and you can get a lot of fun character stuff bouncing back and forth, or at least the group interacting like within their stories, their split off individual stories, with them being able to interact with each other more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was unsure of how you felt about the episode, because like I said, there aren't a lot of laughs. It did get a couple laughs from me. There's a couple parts, even a couple parts that are just like easy jokes.
Yeah.
Abed just starts yelling because everybody else is angry, and he's like, he yells at him, "How much have you read? So I know how much to be mad," or something like that. But yeah, so I couldn't really gauge what you thought of it.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a laugh riot if it's still interesting, Mm-hmm. And this one pulled it off. In the history of Community, it's not the best episode, but it's done pretty well for this season.
And it can't be easy to write, but to find a balance between either the episodes go super big and wild, which this had a touch of it towards the end, but super big, and that can be a bad thing sometimes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But then to go the opposite direction, to keep it more grounded, which I think we've got more episodes of like a little bit more down to earth type stuff where it's a bit more character driven and less huge big concepts. Those are the kind of episodes that it helps to throw the group together and just kind of let them bounce off of each other.
And I also think, at least personally, I like it when they're kind of the bad guys.
It's like everybody versus the Greendale 7.
Right, exactly. I love that. I always like it when they do that.
All right, final thought?
Good episode. I might even go so far as to say best episode of the season so far.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I enjoyed it quite a bit. A lot of good character stuff.
And it's a good thing because I was starting to get disappointed. This is a good pump up for my excitement to watch more Community.
Good. Thank you for watching.
Like and subscribe.
Hope you can join us next week when we talk about the next episode of Community once it's out. And visit growlixpodcast.com for more reviews in both written form and video form of not only Community, but also, comic books, Doctor Who audio plays, all kinds of, super cool, not at all nerdy stuff. Have a good week, everybody.